Hey everybody, this is Brenda Devine from Purpose 8 Institute, and you're listening to my podcast, Living a Life of Purpose, where we discuss the importance of purpose in our everyday lives. Discovering and living out your purpose keeps you focused on God's purpose. That is sharing the good news of salvation with others. This podcast is for people like me, still searching for the answers to who am I and why am I here? You and I were designed and created by God for purpose, and we have much to do. You can listen and subscribe to my podcast, Living a Life of Purpose with Brenda Devine on Anchor and all other podcast platforms. Hey, this is Brenda Devine from Purpose 8 Institute. Hey, I just want to say thank you for once again joining me for another episode of my podcast, Living a Life of Purpose. So today's topic is aim higher. And I'm going to point this at women, but in many ways it's applicable to men too. But I really want to drill down and focus on women. So I'm going to say that I'm the type of person, really analytical. I'm really about numbers and thinking things through and discerning information. And very early, I've always been about not doing girl things. Like, I had dolls and I played with them and I loved them. But what I liked as a kid was riding my bike and riding my skateboard. I've never been athletic, but I liked to do things that had some excitement and some speed. And I used to have a girlfriend in growing up, Wendy, and we used to we had these boys on the block that they would like torment us and throw rocks at us, and Wendy was really fast at running and I was really good at riding my bike. So when they would torment us with these rocks, Wendy would run them down and then I would ride up with my bike and then beat them up, because I wasn't good at running fast, but I could ride my skateboard or my bike, and that's what I used. And thinking back, all my life I've positioned myself to be different. I think I'm the black sheep in the family. I've gone after jobs and careers that weren't particularly labeled for women. I never really thought about the jobs were labeled for typically not for women, but I've always thought of myself first as a person, as a human, and was drawn to things that I like. Growing up, high school, working my way through college, I tended to hang around men because I thought that they always got to the point. And I found that being around women, it was circular conversation that never really went anywhere. It was more about feelings and emotions and waiting on someone to come and rescue them. Like in the fairy tale books, you've got the prince and you've got the castle and you've got the girl or woman waiting to be saved, the white picket fences. And I never gravitated to all of that. I always had the mindset. And I'm going to attribute a lot of that to my mother. I had the mindset of, I can go get this on my own. I find the mindset of women, sometimes and I'm going to include me in that as well, because as I have softened up, as God has healed me from many things, as I became a believer, I've softened up, and I'm more emotional than I've ever been. Sometimes it drives me crazy. I've turned into a crybaby. But I have noticed that sometimes we limit ourselves. We don't aim high enough. We let perceived obstacles stand in our way. We let perceptions of who we are stand in our way, who someone says we should be, or what society says we should be, or what social media says we should be, or what our parents say we should be, what our friends say we should be, what our jobs, even education, what education says we should be, what money says we should be, what influence says we should be. I want to challenge you to aim higher. So I'm going to say I am a big fan of Brenda. I love some of me. It's taken a long time to love some Brenda, but I love me some Brenda. I love even more of Brenda as God has shown me my gifts and my capabilities and my talents and skills, and how He's taught me through obstacles and challenges, things I would have never discovered on my own. But I'm going to say that I know that while I was being challenged, that He was preparing me to aim higher. I had one of those aha moments last week. It seemed like I had all these different narratives that kind of came together within a week or so, and they gave me an aha moment. So while I am working on my corner store project, I still need money. So I have been looking for a job. Now, my background is in commercial real estate, 25 plus years. And so I was thinking about how when I started off applying for jobs, I was applying for jobs that were less than my skill set, because I wanted to have more time for corner store. But then I wasn't getting any interviews. And then I'm like, okay, you need to apply for the jobs for your skill sets. But some of those had too much of a commitment for like travel and things that I really did not want to do again. So I'm like, okay, let me work on my resume to pull out the best things so I can land in a job that I want to be in. So I actually had an organization, a company contact me, and I applied. And the thing is, when I looked at the job description, I'm like, wow, I've never done this before. This is huge. And it was an organization that I would have never even considered that they would reach out to me. So here's the thing. Me thinking less than. Me not aiming higher. And so I interviewed, still waiting on the response. So I had that in the back of my head, like, why are you not considering this? They reached out to you. Then I started thinking about why they reached out to me and the talents and the skills that I have. And I'm like, oh, I never even considered my expertise in this particular area of something that I could apply to right now and use. So let me redo my website. Let me go redo my resume so that I can aim higher. And so then I was scrolling through LinkedIn last week, and this job popped up. Now, I only have tags that are related to real estate. And this job popped up as a strategist. And I started not to look at it. And then I'm like, no, I'm going to look at it. Because just because the title doesn't immediately resonate with me, something kept saying, look at it. So I went and looked at the job description. And I looked at how much it was paying. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even think of my skill sets within that realm. I know what my market rate is, but I hadn't thought about my skill set being worth that amount of money. And I'm reading the job description. I'm like, I can do this. So let me apply for it. How hard is it for me to apply for it? So I did apply for it. And I don't know what the results are. I haven't got anything back. But the thing is, I made a decision to aim higher. Aim higher. So last week too, all these things are coming together. I got a call from someone that I used to work with. And they're telling me about this job. And I'm looking at the job description. I'm like, okay, I can't do all of these things, but I can do the majority of them. And I'm smart enough to figure out the rest of it. Because I don't believe that I have to tick off every box. Because nobody ticks off every box. Okay? And that's one of the things women do. We think we have to tick off every box. And we don't. I've seen men in positions that couldn't even write a decent paragraph. But they were in a position. Okay? You don't have to tick off every box. So I'm listening to the person that contacted me, and they're telling me how much the salary is. It's twice as much as what my market rate is. And I'm like, wow, okay. He thought enough of me to recommend me. I didn't even think that my market rate could be double. And then I realized I need to aim higher. It's not about the money. It's about the thought that I have the ability for what I'm doing for someone to pay me what they think I'm worth versus what I think I'm worth. Now, this all came at the same time. I'm listening to an NPR story about a recording artist. She's a songwriter, and she records her own music. And she made this statement basically about, I only like to do stuff that makes me happy. I only like to do, and if it's not going to make me happy, then I'm not going to do it. And then she talked about how she asked for a particular demand when she got a proposal came for her through a record company. And she gave a demand that she included in her proposal that you wouldn't think someone would do. But she's like, I have to be healthy in order to do what you want me to do. And I can't do what you want me to do unless I'm healthy. And they met her demand because she asked for it. It was out of the ordinary, not something you would typically ask. And she, because she values herself, she asked for it because she aimed higher. And all these different situations, ideas, conversations, all of these melted into this aha moment last week of you need to aim higher. Don't worry about where you live, what you look like, what's your age, who left you, what's the standard, what's typical, what people will think, what's the market rate, what are your skill sets, what don't you have for a skill set, who don't you know, who do you know. Aim higher. Aim higher. Aim higher. I realize I'm limiting myself as God's child to have these expectations. Because when I have these expectations, I'm operating under what I think versus what God thinks, what He has decided already to make available for me. I'm already putting a period after it instead of having it wide open to aim higher, to be open to whatever He wants to provide for me, to give. Now, that doesn't necessarily always translate into money. That can also translate into opportunities and resources and connections and people. But if I'm limiting myself, if I'm not aiming higher, I'm just staying on this comfortable spot. I'm like horizontal when I should be going vertical. I should be going up. Oh, wait, did I do it wrong? Horizontal, vertical. I'm just on horizontal. Yeah, when I should be going vertical. Up. I should be going up. I should be aiming higher. And I want you to think about this. It doesn't matter. Don't think about yourself as a woman, a female. Think about yourself as a human. A human that has all the gifts and talents that God has given you. You don't have to look like every other woman. That's one of the things that really bothers me about women. You feel like you have to look like everybody else. The hair, the nails, the makeup, you have to. There's nothing about being original. You know, sometimes I get these conversations about, hey Brenda, why do you? I mean, I know you're making this kind of money or you're doing this. Why do you wear black all the time? Because it's my favorite color. Why don't you wear your hair straight? Because sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just don't even want to comb my hair. Truth be told. Sometimes I just don't want to. And I don't have to. I don't wear a lot of heels because I don't have to. I did all that. When I used to work in corporate America at a bank, I dressed the part. I put the uniform on. And when I put the uniform on, I acted what the uniform dictates. I wasn't aiming higher. I was aiming to be like everybody else and fit in. But we're not designed to fit in. We're not designed. We're not created and designed by God to fit in. If you're a believer, we are not designed that way. We're to use His talents, the skills that He's given us. We're supposed to use those for His glory. Not to stay in the middle. Not to be status quo. Not to fit in. But to aim higher. So I'm just going to say this about women. And I love you. So take this with love. Okay? Because I do this too, and I have to catch myself. Sometimes we talk too much. Sometimes we say too much. Sometimes we tell too much. Sometimes we share too much. Sometimes we stay in places longer than we should be. Sometimes we hang on to people we should have let go a long time ago. Sometimes we need to draw a line and say no. Sometimes we need to put boundaries up. Okay? Sometimes we need to get over stuff quicker. We do. Because and I did this. You know, it's one thing when you're hurt and offended, you talk about it. Initially, people will listen to you and there's some level of empathy. But after months, you find out that they're tired of hearing it. Guess what? I found out I was tired of talking about it. Okay? So I had to put a line in it. I go, you know what? This lingering in this place too long is impacting my anointing. How can I aim higher? How can I do God's will if I'm still talking about the past? If I'm still talking about how something hurt me? If I'm still talking about who hurt me? If I'm still not processing forgiveness? How am I going to move on? So sometimes being emotional, you got to learn how to just go, you know what? I'm just going to leave it right there. I'm tired of crying. I'm tired of being sad. Let me put a pin in it, and move on. Doesn't mean it's an automatic fix. It's not. But you have to learn how to move on. And at some point, you look back and go, you know what? That was a fucky situation. But guess how God has prepared me and used me to move on and to aim higher. So, as a woman, focus less on what a woman should do, what a woman should say, what a job a woman should have. Don't focus on what somebody tells you you should be, but be what God has called you to be. And sometimes, I won't say sometimes, we have these moments where the Holy Spirit is talking to us. And it's the same message, but presented in a different way. You need to think, have your ears open and your eyes open to pay attention. Because I wasn't getting it until they all came together. And I'm like, this is a common theme. I need to aim higher. We need to aim higher. Emotions, complaining, they have their place. Crying, being sad, being depressed, they have their place. But we got to move on. We can't keep carrying stuff. Because I can't aim higher carrying a bag of trauma. Okay? I got a bag of trauma and I'm trying to aim higher. Okay, my aim's going to be off. My arm's going to hurt because it doesn't have the power to throw, to aim higher. So we got to work on that emotional baggage. We got to realize the things in society, the people, the perceptions, the ideas that limit us. Or should I say we allow to limit us. And learn how to think about, I'm a person. I'm a human. I have no limits. The only limits I have are within my design and my capacity that God has given me. And I don't really, honestly, I think I've just touched the tip of it. I can't get to the higher ground if I'm only at this little percentage. I think there is so much more. And maybe that's what the Holy Spirit was telling me last week. There's so much more, and I need to aim higher. So I'm sharing this message with you like I'm sharing it with myself. Aim higher. This is Brenda Devine from Purpose 8 Institute. Hey, I'll talk to you in a little bit. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me on my podcast, Living a Life of Purpose, on Anchor and all other major podcast platforms. To learn more about Purpose 8 Institute and our ministry of sharing the importance of purpose, please visit our website, www.purpose8institute.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and even TikTok. If you would like to learn more about purpose beyond this podcast, Living a Life of Purpose, you can also purchase one of my books that are available on my website, purpose8institute.com, and also on Amazon.